Okay, everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Headlines, episode 23, where me and Steve take a look at the major headlines for the week and what we think is going on. But as statistical and technical traders, we like to look at what the charts are kind of actually showing us as opposed to kind of what the headlines are and what the media is doing. Um, Interesting week this week, say the least. Just FYI, as we are, and this is what we'll start with, but as we are recording this, Jackson Hole, I think that's what it's called. It's a bunch of Fed stuff that I don't understand or really care too much about is going on currently. So everything we say take with a grain of salt because if he says a bad word or something and the market just tanks, you never know with these things. It's
It's kind of
crazy.
like a Fed day. Yeah.
So is that what just for me, because I don't know what's going on, is this just like
We'll
a
pop a chart up.
prolonged
I
chat
mean,
with
yeah,
him or
we'll put up the cues. Every year, the governors gather in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and they have a convention, a meeting, and then they come out and they create. It's almost like another Fed day, but these are prepared comments. And as you can see on
yeah.
that first giant green candle, that's the 10 o'clock release. That's algos getting the first sniff of the text of the speech. That's how that works. And so, personally, I've been kind of stalking some silver stocks, and so I was waiting for at least a reaction. I could be wrong, like Michael says. This is early in the day, and Fed days can often reverse and go to lows, and I'll get out if I have to. But I bought some PSLV, which is the
Yeah.
physical silver trust.
Oh, that's the one that you
PSLV,
said that
spot
actually
silver.
holds the
Yeah, that's
yeah.
the verified. So that's resting nicely there on top of the clouds.
Yep.
And then I was looking for a silver miner. They had a big reversal, and I picked about four or five and found FSM for tuna
FSM.
FSM, and it's a nice.
Oh,
You
that's a
can't
nice little
really see
pattern,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, but what's going on is with my favorite moving averages there, it's just kind of sideways snaking along the 50. It is not breaking down below the 50s, and the 10 is coming up underneath. So a catalyst at any time could happen. Again, I'm going to tell you guys, I don't know how we're going to close, but if these things reverse and go to lows, I'm just going to get out. I'm taking a shot here to see if we can get some follow through into the weekend based on the catalyst of what everybody's been waiting for. I know Michael said he didn't really care about it, but the market cares about it, and so we need to care about it.
Yeah, and when I say I should preface when I say I don't care, it's more of just I can't add any value to kind of talking about
Oh,
it. Like I,
gotcha.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't really
Canadian.
know. Yeah, it's so for me, I treat things like this in the same way that I treat an earnings play, right? If I'm holding a stock and I know that earnings is coming up, I'm obviously interested, and that's obviously important for me to know that earnings is happening. Um, but I'm not going to make a prediction based off of that, right? It's just going to be earnings is coming, so I'm going to know. And it was the same. I knew a while ago that this was going to happen. I just don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know. It's like one of those things people say, "Oh, well, if GDP comes in hot, the market's going to rally," and then the market just turns
Yeah.
around and tanks. Like it's good to
No.
know the events occurring so
Yeah.
you're prepared for the volatility, but I don't predict it. But yeah, that's
You
interesting.
use
So,
you use
just
the
to,
word prediction. Yeah. Go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead. No, yeah,
Just I was going to move into something else that I'm predicting, and at the moment, I'm happy to show you because it's on the wrong side of town. So, what's happening here in Trump media? All right, a lot of people, and again, this is Michael. This is American politics. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a popular third-party name. He didn't really get a fair shake, but a lot of people really like him. And yesterday, he officially withdrew from the race, and he is speaking 20 minutes apart from Trump today in Arizona. And the DJT stock, I think, is trying to reflect, what might happen and what I'm predicting. You said the word predict, and I'm going to go out here. Normally, I don't like to predict, but I'm going to have some fun on this one, even as it's going to lows. Even possible news is coming out contradicting what I'm going to say, but I'm thinking in the market at least was speculating that Robert F. Kennedy might throw his endorsement behind DJT. And if that happens, then this stock could benefit. But as we're speaking, it's pounding into lows. So I'm going to go check the news and make sure nothing's being discussed on that. But this is a speculative play. I normally don't do that. the chart was looking good on the open, but now it's not, and I'm always going to play the chart. I know that I'm speculating on this, and there's a long Friday. I don't know how it's going to look on Sunday when you guys watch this, but we'll see. It's a small, medium size, and speculative. I don't know what else to say.
Well, and I think the trading lesson there, which is fantastic, is that um, you can kind of look at that as a top-down approach. Again, I know absolutely nothing about your guys' politics, but it seems like a major political figure may endorse another major political figure, and you're using this as kind of the betting mechanism, where I guess you're basically thinking that if there's more chance that Trump will be elected, that this stock will move higher, at least momentarily, and vice versa, if there's less chance. So it's kind of like a voting mechanism. And I guess you could also probably express this um,
Proxy,
in
yeah.
in the in the voting. I think you guys actually have, I don't think they're allowed up here, but I think you guys actually have betting markets down there where
Hmm. Yeah.
you can take bets. So it's just a different way to express that. But what I like, and I think the audience should always focus on, is he has a theory, he has a process. It could be the
Plan.
same as saying I like this company because I think right this thing's going to occur. Regardless of what it is, right? They're going to increase earnings or build a new product, or we'll talk about fire their CEO, and but then you go to the chart and you wait for the chart to confirm, or at least you choose the chart for an entry and stop loss. If there's no other reason you find in your life to bring technical analysis into your trading and investing, just as a risk management
Yeah,
idea, I
by no means is this a technical analysis entry. Let's get that straight. I do have a technical analysis exit and a
yeah.
risk exit. My reason for entering this trade is purely speculative, and you have to have an out to admit you're wrong because that's what new traders do. I did it when I first started trading. You become a deer in the headlights, and you're like, I know when I sell this, it's going to absolutely rip
Hmm.
2 minutes after I get out. And it becomes this mind game. You've just got to rip the band aid off and go, I was wrong. Take your focus and your capital and move to something else.
Yeah, and the again, I think that's super important, and it's the way, as someone who worked in the hedge fund space for 10 years, it was always the way hedge funds worked. Even back then, which again was over 10 years ago now, there was a portfolio manager, and he would have some sort of idea. He say, "Hey, I think Bank of America is going to blow out earnings for blah blah blah, whatever reason it was," and then he would hand that off to another individual, which was his execution trader, and that guy always had the charts and the data and the he knew that his
Yeah.
premise was to be long Bank of America if good things were happening and be out Bank of America if bad things were happening. And that using that premise to say, buy this thing, but have an area to lean off of, I think if people just did nothing else in their trading and they just added that concept, that'd be huge, right?
Yep.
Um, so speaking of things that can definitely shake up your stock, I want to bring up Starbucks here, and partly for the memes. Like, I think this is hilarious, but I do think that there's a big lesson here as well. So we had this big gap here last week that just continues to rocket and continues to push to new highs. And this is a really interesting looking pattern. I'm actually going to put on here Steve's. I'm going to put on a 10
Cool.
SMA and a 20
And
SMA,
yep.
and that's what this cloud
Yep.
is. Um, and so the idea here was that Starbucks has been selling for a long period of time. If we go to a monthly chart here, you can see over months and months and months as the market's making new high after new high after new high, Starbucks is selling off. It comes right, coincidentally or not, comes right to this support zone right here, and then all of a sudden there's an announcement, and it is just the board of directors has said enough. The CEO is not working. We are going to get rid of that CEO, but not only are we going to get rid of that CEO, we're going to poach the CEO from Chipotle, which I think is what, CMG, is that?
Hmm.
And if you take a look at this, let's zoom out to this monthly chart instead, you can see just a completely different story. So the fact that the CEO got replaced, but not only got replaced, but got replaced with somebody who is experienced in the food services business, who has grown a big food services company. Again, I don't think we have these in Canada, or at least we don't have them in the small part of Canada that I am. But so I've never been there, but the stock price kind of speaks for itself. Uh, is a very interesting tale. Now, me and Steve were joking before we got started that how pissed are you as the CEO of Starbucks if the moment you get fired, your company's worth like 20, I think it's 25 billion or something more in a moment. But it presents two things that I think is interesting. One is the it's rare to see a gap like this not because of earnings for a large company. Generally, with Starbucks, there'll be some sort of company move, and that will be the thing that kind of moves Starbucks because it doesn't move very much. But B, it creates a fundamental shift in the market. If you're looking at what's happening here on this gap, and I think this is why Steve would like it as well. It gaps up, and then there's probably like 10, 15 days where the news is getting processed, and this 10 SMA is slowly creeping up under price. I'm interested, and this is why I wanted to bring it up to Steve. I'm kind of interested in this as a long-term play. I think I might want to just buy it if we get a strong close today, put my stop under this gap low and walk away for a couple weeks. Because if this guy can do to Starbucks what he has done to CMG, you could have a massive return on this thing.
Yeah, it's the perfect situation for a gap because it held a gap and hold. Again, Brian Shannon, our good buddy, has taught us that consolidation can happen in two forms. One in price, which would be a pullback, the weaker
Mhm.
of the two. The stronger of the two is a consolidation over time. And in time, we get a sideways action. And usually, what happens is the issue is forced by the rising 10 SMA on a daily chart. So, in this case, where the rubber meets the road, the fight is about to break out. And it looks like an early situation is the buyers are ready to buy some more and not get left behind as that 10 SMA approaches.
Yeah, so just something I think people should take a look at. It's a very interesting look when it comes to something that's so big. This isn't going to be something like Steve's DJT play that you're going to get these massive moves one way or another. These are big, big names, so they're gonna move as well. So again, if you want to look up, that's kind of uh, that's the news behind this. It's just again a complete replacement of your CEO. Again, it's kind of be a shame to be that guy, and yeah, have this
I
$100
mean, we
billion
need to.
dollar rally.
If the editor should put up the quick cut to emotional damage uh, cut, that hurts. That's like a manager getting fired and the new manager takes him to the World Series and wins. That's a lot of ego bruising right there.
Well, and I'm sure the guy's going to be doing okay financially, but like, how do you even get another job after that? If someone looks up and you go, okay, ex CEO of Starbucks, and you look up and you had this massive gap up the second that you left. I don't know. It's probably one of those stories where he just had the wrong mentality. Maybe every time I've been to Starbucks, I'm just absolutely shocked by the price compared to my local Tim Hortons, which is a little bit
It's not worth it.
more Canadian. It's coffee's coffee unless you're going to real crazy fancy stuff that they
Maybe they're
do.
going to start trying to sell some more food and get some more margins on food, and part of that is an assumption on a different business model with more upside. Who knows?
Yeah. Now, so speaking of, so we talked about relative strength and relative weakness there with CMG and then, sorry, CMG and Starbucks, right? CMG being Chipotle, just in the food services industry, doing amazing. Starbucks getting absolutely killed. I think there's a massive lesson that we're seeing here in Intel that is having more bad news occurred. And this one is actually uh, a a German plant worry about being able to build it. So I read a little bit of this article. Again, I don't follow the whole politics of it, but um, your current president Biden did something where he said we don't want to build chips in China or Taiwan anymore because geopolitical worries. We want to bring some to the U.S. Primarily, and then also other friendlier, European type trading partners. Um, Now they Intel is going to build a couple plants in America. Those seem absolutely fine, but this plant that they were planning on building in Germany looks like it may not pass that rule of we want you to build the chips here at home or again in friendlier places. I think that's, again, the big part of the problem. Um, so what's happening is more selling in Intel. because they're worried that, oh, if they don't get the go ahead by the government to build the plant there, then that's just more woes. And the main kind of takeaway I wanted to have here is that if you've been following chips for any length of time, you've seen the kind of insane rise. So this is again a monthly chart of Intel from 2021 until now, making absolute like 10-year lows. But if you look at any other semiconductor, it's been the complete and utter opposite. So uh, the lesson that I want to kind of give to the people out there is just say focus on strength. If you want to be long, and I don't know what happens in the human brain where they're like, okay, I want to be long semiconductors, and they will pick the Intel as opposed to the even AMD or Nvidia or SMCI or any of these names that have been doing absolutely fantastic. And instead they will go after the weaker names, but that has just
Value.
been proven to,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Something comes to mind here. I was trying to think as you were speaking, racking my brain to come up with another company who's been around for like 50 years, 40 years, like Intel, 30, I don't know, and has lost it. I mean, they were the 600-pound gorilla of microprocessors and chips forever.
mhm.
And all of a sudden, NVIDIA, AMD, the 600-pound gorilla is getting a little bit old, and they come and they challenge that 600-pound gorilla, and he gets the snot beat out of him, and he just goes and sits on the side of the pack now while he watches these other young bucks, NVIDIA and AMD, take the reign. So I think companies, they get so big probably that they just lose focus of innovation,
Yeah.
and I think that's where NVIDIA kicked their ass.
Well, it's a sorry example every time I bring it up for me and my Canadian brothers, but BlackBerry owned right back
There
in
you
the
go.
90s. It was the Crackberry. If you had a smartphone, if you were in business at all, you had a BlackBerry, and they kind of looked at it and said, "Oh, we're owning the entire world," and they completely ignored uh, the look of the retail
Tablet.
market, right? And
Mm.
they're like, we don't care about the retail market because we're in the business, and only business people are going to be using smartphones. Then Apple came out with the
Because of our
iPhone.
secure network. Yes, because of our cool network.
Yeah, and Apple came out and just completely sent them to school, and that was the end of it. And it's funny. So Apple killed the BlackBerry, and in some way, Apple killed Intel. Without getting super nerdy on everyone, the computer I'm running this on is one of the new computers that uses Apple building their own chips. And the reason they left Intel to build their own chips was exactly what you said, Steve. They're like, we want to make thinner, lighter, faster computers, but Intel's not moving as fast as we can
They
as a
missed it.
company.
Yeah.
So we're going to do our own. And then they lost Apple, which was one of their biggest. And then ever since then, it's just been kind of this tumble. So again, if you're a value investor, and you think that Intel can right the ship, go right ahead. But it just seems that if there's going to be a top to semiconductors anytime soon, that's going to bring down the whole industry, because the industry has been so strong and Intel has not participated at all. It just makes me think that, why would they start now? Basically, why would they start participating in this rally, considering kind of how bad they've been?
Mhm.
Last but not least, I don't really trade railways very much. To be honest, I didn't even know um, that this existed, but there was some sort of railway lockout strike that lasted a single day. So there was some border crossing issue, I don't know, that got, hammered out or whatever. And it was related to this CMI type company. So this is just Canadian National Railway. It's just a, again, company that ships things from one place to the other. The chart isn't too interesting to me, other than the fact that, and I'll be interested to see what Steve thinks of this, is that we've got, the 10 SMA crossing over the 20, so showing a little bit of strength there, getting into the gap a little bit. It's starting to cross above moving averages. If you look at this monthly chart down here, it's a relatively strong company. This is going to be as unexciting as it comes because, it's a railway. What are they really going to do that's going to cause their price to explode? But I just wonder if, I don't know, you see this bar, you see the 2 times normal volume, you see 3 days to cover. Does any of this interest you at all?
Um, I think it's a bit of a chase at this point because you see it's had a nice grind higher, and today is kind of the finale push. And if you have a 50 on there, it's still a declining 50, and it's been stopped every single time, just massively since April. The entire decline since April has been held down by the 50, probably 5 or 6 retests. But today, this big candle is now pushed through the 50. And in my experience, it's really unusual to see something after a 6 day run push up and then close above. So for me, I would wait for the close on this one. I wouldn't be surprised to see it fall back and even maybe settle right around that 50-day moving averages. That's usually what happens on the first day of these reverse downtrends as they come up and they hit a 50. It's just the 50 on a downtrend is such a solid wall of resistance as an SMA. You just have to give it attention. And we're just bleeding through it, like I said. So let's see how we close today.
Yeah, there it is there, the 50
Yeah,
days.
that's
So
what I'm
yeah,
seeing. And if you zoom out even more,
fighting
you can
through.
see how much it's held it in the past. See that
Oh
once
yeah,
it
so
rolled over?
support all
Yeah,
through here and then
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
resistance all through there.
So
So
you're at the
yeah.
high end of the range here. That's why I wouldn't chase it.
No, so that makes perfect sense. So, again, we'll see what happens. Let's actually check in on Jackson Hole, right? That's what is that anything changed since we talked about initially? Are we still rallying or are we pulling back a bit?
We're still up since the text came out, but the problem is Nasdaq on the daily and the spiders on the daily, they've just run so far, so fast. I think the best that the bulls might be able to hope for is just maybe a bit more consolidation up here, like I said, so we can work the daily chart sideways for a
Yeah.
week or so and
The
not give back, yeah, the D and
yeah, the
not give back
overtime.
anything. Yeah, overtime thing.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking about here as well, right? We had a pretty ugly day yesterday, but yeah, you're right. It's just from the yen carry trade blow up until now, it's just been absolutely rally. So, if we consolidate maybe back and forth across this, I guess here's your 50-day moving average again. Stop right at that yesterday. So yeah, if we just spend a couple days, maybe even a couple weeks resting here before we take another shot higher. Again, as the CMT seasonality nerd, I know that generally speaking, for this election cycle, but it's between now, is it early November or late November
Yeah,
that your
first
election is?
Tuesday.
So the
It's
early
always the
November, yeah.
first Tuesday.
I know between then and now is generally a choppy period, and probably I haven't studied this, but I would bet if you look, depending on how closely the polls are, it probably creates that chop as they fight it out back and forth, a bunch of stuff. But just to know that hey, it's something to note. If you're in for chop, just play as if chop's going to occur. So that's a whole bunch of trades. That's a whole bunch of interesting things. I just wanted to do one quick look. I don't know if you have anything other than DJT for people to watch. I know you already mentioned silver.
Silver, yeah.
I'm still loving gold. Full
Hmm.
disclosure, I'm in gold. I think the more the market gets a little bit crazy, the more this gold chart to me
Hmm.
makes sense. We keep kind of rallying out of bases. And if we go to the weekly chart, for example, we seem to have a base and then we break out and then we have another base, we break out. So as long as these breakouts hold, I think gold will have an interesting time here with the craziness that's going on with the election and all of that. Again, it might be that flight to safety that people are looking for.
Not only that, I will add there's many nations that are wanting to be in the BRICS group so bad, and they basically have to get their currency under a backed situation. So I've heard rumors of China and other countries. They're on the bid. These are probably countries on the bid trying to acquire gold. So the buyers are outweighing the sellers, and it's just a very strong commodity right now. And again, today on the intraday, I was waiting for the Jackson Hole tip, and GLD is still holding pretty darn well since the text was released of the Jackson Hole discussion. But anything can happen. It's a long day. We'll see.
Yeah, the main thing that I'm looking at too is that when the market sold off, gold didn't really react, and that could be for the reason you were talking about, Steve. If there's nations on the bid, they're looking to buy that in. But when we had that October 5th sell off, you can see it was barely a downtick in gold, and then ever since then. So not only did it not sell off with the market, it started to immediately rally with the market as well. So generally speaking, you have this inverse correlation of people going to gold when they're worried about things, but even when people are excited, they're still going to gold. So that's just my thing to for the people to keep
It's a
an eye on.
bullish. It's a bullish situation in gold, I believe. Yep.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you everyone for coming by. Thanks for checking out the show. As always, if you've made it this long, give a like, a retweet, a comment. We read all the comments. We respond to the comments. We appreciate them very much, and I will talk to you guys soon.